guys, we're just going to do an end follow-up now with the other guys and just ask Chaplain Knoedler some more questions that they had from maybe a non-religious perspective, but also just leaning on his wisdom because he has so much of it. So here's the other guys. Just go ahead, guys, whatever you got for Chaplain Knoedler. He said he can answer anything.
I didn't say that.
Anything. Hold on a second. First of all, sir, I'd like to say that was we really appreciate you being on here.
Absolutely.
I love being able to get people who have such wisdom like you to get on a stage and just open to answer any questions we give them. I mean, we learn so much from you, whether or not you think we learn a lot from it. But once again, we appreciate it a lot. But one thing that you said that really kind of hit me, that I kind of dealt with, was the pressure of wanting to be the best every day. And then the second thing that you said that really, really radiated with me was where you put in your energy, life-giving or life-sucking.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is something that I've been struggling with myself, but like I've been understanding like my actions. But then like when you finally put into those words, it's clicked with me like, oh, that's what I've been trying to figure out. So do you have any more, like, so what would be the left and right limits for somebody who else is struggling with this, for like the life-giving and the life-sucking? Like,
yeah,
how can you define that better for somebody to help them tighten up their azimuth?
Yeah. So, we all know the things that ultimately we should know, the things that give us life. I'll speak personally. For me, when I was really, this was before the Army, really, when I lived in the Northwest, and actually, ironically, I'm back in Northwest right now, and around the rain and the dreariness, and really struggled with seasonal depression, from about October until, depending on the year, March to June, just blah. And so I realized finally when I was like 34 years old, I was like, I got to do something different. And so for me, what really changed was getting up when my alarm clock went off, starting to exercise, and then being around somebody that was life-giving, and then serving. And so those things were what I needed. Now, I could have gone to some things that temporarily were life-giving, meaning pornography, some sort of an addiction, which there are many. And those things temporarily satisfy, but long-term they don't. Actually, they make a withdrawal versus a deposit. So another way of saying it is, what are the deposits that we can make in our life that are going to add value over the long haul? Because the things that are life sucking over the long haul will leave us at a place just empty. And so what are the things that over 5 years, if I do these habits every day, then I'm going to be better off? I think that's another way of putting it.
All right, that's really good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, so like you said in the interview with Ken, not everyone wants to go to the chaplain or behavioral health. And for me, when I started my journey on my behavioral health, it was just like something that like out of nowhere has hit me, and I was like, I just need to do this right now. So you have any advice to people or soldiers who feel like they need to see them, but I don't know, they're just putting these mental blocks in front of themselves, like, I won't do this because of this, I want to, I mean, excuses as they could come up with. Like, what's your advice to them?
You mentioned excuses, and it's probably a lot of it is admitting the excuse and looking at what is it that's helping me throw up that roadblock. Because a lot of times it's a 2-foot wall. Something's not that big of a deal, that whether I'm scared, whether I don't want to appear weak, whether it's inconvenient, it'll take up too much time. those are 2-foot walls that have to get over. And I think that's where accountability comes in too. If someone knows that I'm struggling with something, and obviously we don't tell that to everybody. We find that safe person, hopefully, that may even go with us, or that'll even say, hey, you know what? I'm going to ask you every day until you go. And so I don't know Gonzo, what was it for you, man? That's you said something kind of clicked. My words, not yours, but what was it that one day you said, okay, I'm going?
Well, I mean, I talked about this a little with the Towns interview. That hasn't aired yet. So, but with me, it was after I left the regiment. I left the regiment when I was staff sergeant, promoted myself at a job, and I went to the 173rd in Italy, and I was there for like a dental appointment or something. And have you been to Vicenza at all, sir?
That's where I'm stationed right now, actually.
Oh heck yeah! So you know how in the hospital they have on Ederly, they have like all the rows. There's like optical, dental, whatever down the list. And I was like doing my
like
thing.
a
And I
buffet
looked
line.
down. Yeah, and I looked down the hallway and I saw behavioral health, and something was just like, go, dude. Like as I was thinking, I was like, well, you're not a regiment anymore. You don't have to maintain that standard of going 100 miles an hour. Like you can relax now, and like you just need to go. I was just struggling with a lot of stuff. I was on medications at the time. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just tired of. My thing was, I was tired of being anxious. I was tired of being sad. I was tired of having negative thoughts, and I knew that that's not how I wanted to feel and think. And I didn't know necessarily going to be helpful was going to help me, but I knew it was going to be a start and it would put me in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my situation.
Yeah. And I think people have to get to the point where, it's like doing a couch to 5K. Someone eventually has to get to the point where like, I'm sick of this. I'm done. And hopefully they go to some place that can help them, again, life-giving, whatever that may be, that where, again, you look down the road in 5 years and like, this is not gonna hurt me. Going behavior health, hopefully. But it may help in the long run. Then they do it. But I mean, my word, Rangers and service members, but especially Rangers, man, most stubborn people in the world. If they're not going to do it, they ain't going to do it. But once they say yes, they're all in. So
that's a good analogy, sir.
Yeah.
I have one final question before I go ahead and pass it over to the rest of the guys.
Okay.
So you're talking about the anxiety cure. I think you mentioned Paul gave up the recipe of how to get from A to Z, and it was through prayer, through
Thanksgiving.
Okay, so what I think that's great if you have a pillar of spiritualness underneath you that you can use to guide you. But what would you recommend for somebody who doesn't have that spiritual pillar, somebody who doesn't pray? How would they have a similar way to get to that, or use that recipe on the other side of the fence, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So I think the only part of that doesn't involve God is the Thanksgiving. But then you have to ask, okay, what am I thankful for, and why am I thankful for that, or who's given me that thing? But that's where the hunt the good stuff comes in. But that only takes us so far, I think. But again, I think it's you go back to the things that, what can I do daily that will help out? So, I know I'm sounding like a broken record here a little bit, but getting up in the morning, maintaining a physical, a PT regimen of some kind, having someone that you can talk to. I didn't mention this, but I think a campfire can be very good for anxiety. Mm-hmm. To be able to sit around a campfire and just talk with people. Reading. There's a lot of good, podcasts out there. I think getting outside is key. Getting outside in the nature around us. And I think serving is something that anyone can do that takes us out of ourselves and we're giving back to somebody, showing kindness to somebody. We're doing something bigger than just us, because when we're anxious, it's a downward spiral and it's all internal. And so again, it takes getting out of ourselves. It takes time and it takes energy. But once most people, when they're in that situation, whether it's serving at a soup kitchen or, doing something for a friend, some sort of service project, we're service oriented, even in the military, I think that can really help. So those are a few things, and then obviously seeing a counselor, and then there's medication too for anxiety. So.
All right. Well, those are just a few things I wanted you to elaborate on a little more. I can pass the torch over to you, Kyle.
Yeah, good questions, man. Thank you for letting me have the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, most of the questions that I've got, sir, are have already been answered. I think it would just be beneficial to our viewers and some of the guys that maybe don't know. But to give a quick background, when I was serving in 3rd Battalion, it was about halfway through 2013, where I was directed to go speak to a chaplain. And my upbringing to present day, religion isn't a big part of that. So when I first went, I didn't know that I was able to go talk to you guys. And the more I discussed it with some of my peers, we didn't really know the accessibility of the chaplain and just the wealth of wisdom that you guys have and are more than open to share with people. So if you could, sir, what kind of accessibility and what kind of steps do people have to take to go see a chaplain? And is it an open door policy, like the chain of command, or what really needs to be done to see you guys?
Man, what a great question. I'm glad you're able to see something. It sounds like it was a positive experience too.
Oh, absolutely, sir.
Did you see Jason Phipps, Chaplain Phipps?
That might have been his name. I've got such an awful memory. I actually almost became a chaplain's assistant at one point because of just how the experience went, and there was an opening at that point in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, just life changing.
Yeah. So being a chaplain is very easy because we'll make the time. And the great thing is, the difference between us and behavioral health available 24 hours a day, but and so are we, and we're embedded in the unit at the battalion level. So every battalion across the Army has a chaplain. So that's the great thing about it. So we have accessibility, and also we should, if we're doing our job right, we go out and see the soldiers. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to sit in my office and wait till people come. To me, it's hey, let me get out to the range. Let me get in this vehicle. Let me go on mission. Let me do PT. Whatever it may be, we can be out. So I think there's a lot of talking and a lot of counseling that goes on just in moving around. We call it ministry of presence, just being there, showing up. Here's one thing I didn't mention in the formal portion, but chaplains are the only ones, and religious affairs specialists, formerly chaplain assistants, we're the only ones in the Army who have 100% confidentiality. So we literally cannot share with anyone what's said in confidence. And so what does that mean? Well, we cannot, even if someone's going to hurt themselves, harm themselves, suicide, homicide, any of the mandatory child abuse, any of the mandatory reporting of behavioral health, we cannot do, and it protects the soldier. So now that said, if someone's coming to me with one of those issues, I'm gonna get them help because they're coming for a reason. I'm not just like, okay, cool, you're gonna murder the first sergeant, great, we'll see you later. That's not gonna happen. I'm gonna block the door, and we're gonna talk until you realize what you need to do and are willing to do it to get help.
Absolutely.
But we are the only ones in the military, Department of Defense, that have 100% confidentiality, which is a great resource. So we can keep things. And when a commander, hey, I know so and so talked to you. What went on? Well, I can't tell you what we talked about, but I can tell you that it's going to be okay. I can tell you that he's at an okay place, or hey, we probably need to get a little more help. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
It's interesting because there's been a lot of research recently about spirituality and some science-based research, and they're finding that those who have a strong faith background have an 80% fewer high-risk behaviors that have led to suicide and other things. So, for instance, those who have some sort of faith background have the protective factors where they don't have high-risk behaviors, where there's not the depression like there is with others. The suicide rate drops to like 80% for those who have a faith-based background. Addictive behaviors are down 70%. So again, some science-based that, yes, you can do all the other stuff, but those that have some sort of internal hope based on a faith background are considerably better off than those who don't.
Definitely. And I think a big part of that is, with like Turbo had mentioned, sorry, my apologies, Harper.
Turbo.
That compass and keeping that azimuth, that compass is external. So if, like every human, I am flawed, so I'm off that 1 degree, like you said earlier as well. Over time that really can mess people up, and I'm 100% that's the first time I've ever heard the land nav analogy, so I am going to use that a whole bunch.
I was thinking too about more factors you can add to the analogy, because it's not just your azimuth. If your pace count is off, that's another thing that's off in the long run. When you're weaving through the trees, if instead of going left and right like you're supposed to, you stay to the left, then your azimuth is going to veer even more to the left. You know what I mean? There's just so much.
What happened to me in RASP or at Coal Range, I ran into a huge spider web that messed everything up.
That's excuse. Go
ahead, Harper. I'll forward back to you.
Hey, Harp, Turbo, I'm gonna step in one other thing. I think the more you guys can use the analogies like land nav. I mean, there's tons of analogies with walking across the plank at Ranger School. I mean, or whatever other thing, that those shared experiences for guys in regiment. Tons of airborne ops analogies that you can use. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 10 minutes. Just so many things that the more you can use those analogies to help prove your point and have discussion, I think the better, because people can relate to them.
Absolutely.
That's all.
So I just wanted to know, 19 years ago, young Chaplain John Knoedler, how did you decide to get where you are? Like, it just dawned on you, I want to be a chaplain in the United States Army? Or can you walk us through that process for guys that don't know how you become a chaplain?
Yeah. So I'll do the kind of my story first. So I'd always had an interest in the military. A lot of my friends right out of high school went in, and I thought, oh, that's cool. I'd like to do that, but it's not time yet. And so actually I was approaching the age of, you can't do this anymore. I was a pastor in a church. I did about 10, my time before military was I did firefighting, and then I did 10 years of being a pastor in 2 different churches. Anyway, I was also teaching at a Bible college, and the head of the National Guard chaplaincy was there. And so I was like, hey, what do you think about me joining the Guard and trying this military thing out? And he's like, no, don't do that. I was like, what? And so he goes, it was at the height of the war, 2004 at the time. And he's like, no, it's not fair to your employer, the church, to leave for a year, then come back, expect them just to kind of pick up and leave, start with you left off. And I was like, oh, okay. And so really my wife, Sandy, and I, we had just built a house on an 1.5 acre piece of property in Salem, Oregon. Life was good. She had a dream of one house, one community, one church, close friends all the way through. And I was like, hey, Sandy, I want to at least pray about and think about this military. And she'd known that I was interested. And so I won't go into all the details, but Stu Weber was part of that because I worked for him for 5 years before. And he was basically John. He's got the big deep voice like Phil Kramer, but hey, if you don't, basically I'm gonna kick your butt. And I'm like, okay, I better check this out. So went up to actually Fort Lewis at the time, and a guy named Jeff Strucker, who is the lead Humvee driver in Black Hawk Down, that mission in Mogadishu in '93. He became a chaplain, and interviewed him. He was actually at 2nd Ranger Battalion, and when I left there, I was like, okay, I didn't know what a Ranger was. I knew that they were a special forces unit, whatever. I was like, okay, I think we're supposed to do this. So my wife and I prayed that there would be open doors to show us clearly if this was the life change. And the doors were like, it was like garage doors flying up, and I mean, to the point where we mentioned it to a small group that we were in, and we had 2 people that night say, hey, if you do join the military, we want to buy your house. And to all the people who I thought would be naysayers, from my parents to our kids, our church I was working for, they were like, yeah, sounds good. I'm like, dang, does people just want me to go? Just leave? And so really it was January 4th where my wife and I said, okay, I think this is the direction we need to go, and that God's leading us. And so by June, I was at Chaplain Basic Course and doing the Army thing. So I really feel like it was God that led us into the military. I say us because my wife is very involved as well. We've been married for 28 years. And so we've been doing this journey together for a while, and it's been good, man. People always ask me, how long are you going to stay? And I'm like, well, until it's clear that I need to go. And I don't know when that is. I don't feel it yet. So, and I've done to leave at 19 years anyway at this point. At least got to make it one more year.
I mean, that's a fascinating story. I mean, first of all, that you rubbed elbows with Stu Weber, which I don't know if Gonzo or you or Davey have read any of his books. Fascinating books. He's got tons of them, but also like that you joined the military so late.
Yeah.
And
I was ancient, man. I was an antique by that point. I was 34 years old. So.
and even that though, even though you joined late, you still have been the regimental chaplain. I mean, that's pretty amazing, sir.
Yeah, it's been good. I feel like there's been a lot of cool doors open, and continue to be. It's a lot of fun. Way more fun than being in the church all day. So. Hey, and you also asked, hey, what do you got to do to be a chaplain? Well, there's a few things. One is you got to have a master's of divinity, some master's degree in whatever denomination or faith group you're in. You got to have 2 years of practical ministry experience, more than just volunteering, but a kind of a paid full-time position. And then you have to be endorsed, as I mentioned, by a kind of ascending organization that the Army says, yeah, because they're legit, this person's legit to be a chaplain. And then you apply, and then once you're a session, then it's a direct commission, kind of like doctors and lawyers.
All right, guys, you got anything else to add?
No, I really appreciate you being on here, sir.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. I will say, your reputation precedes you. All the time I was in 3rd Battalion, and it has been an absolute pleasure to finally sit down and discuss with you all of these topics. And just thank you very much for coming on. Well, yeah, I know we all appreciate it, sir.
And what a joy. Thank you so much for even considering me doing this, and hopefully it yields some fruit. Hopefully it yields some people watching and maybe some help. And I'll send Ken a couple email addresses, and obviously he's got me on Messenger, but if there's anything that I can help out with you guys personally, or anyone that sees this thing, or whoever, man, I got a pretty easy job right now. I'm a deputy, so I'm just shoveling coal on someone else's train, and would love to be able to help out any way I can at any point.
We thank everybody's time for watching. And again, like we always say, Rangers lead the way.
All the way. Thanks, guys.